Hey guys, imagine waking up in a world where your biggest daily challenge isn't finding Wi-Fi or dodging traffic. No, it's about surviving laundry day in the ancient world, where clean clothes meant sweaty, dirt-caked rags you'd probably toss out if they didn't turn brown first. Yeah, think about that next time you complain about your washing machine breaking down. Before we dive into the gritty, gross reality of ancient laundry routines, hit like if you're grateful for your modern tech, and drop a comment if you've ever felt overwhelmed by doing laundry. Dim the lights, grab your soap, and prepare to appreciate just how far we've come. Because in some ancient cultures, laundry was a full-blown, stomach-churning nightmare you definitely wouldn't survive. In the ancient town of Helios, mornings began with the scent of wet linen mingling with the aroma of baked bread and the sounds of merchants shouting over crowded stalls. Maya, a young laundress, awoke with anticipation and anxiety, knowing that her first solo laundry day would test her strength and resolve. The river nearby shimmered under the rising sun, its icy waters rushing past stones polished smooth by countless seasons. She brushed the dirt from her simple tunic and prepared her coarse cloths, feeling the weight of tradition pressing upon her shoulders. As she stepped toward the water's edge, her eyes darted around, wary of the elders' watchful gazes and whispered warnings about the perils lurking beneath the surface. Maya dipped her hand into the cold river, shivering at the sting of the icy current that seemed to reach straight to her bones. She waded deeper, feeling the rough stones bite her feet, and begun to scrub the cloths against flat stones, the sound of fabric slapping against the rough surface echoing across the water. The communal basin nearby, a shallow carved stone, served as a centerpiece for social exchange, its worn surface reflecting the flickering sunlight. Her fingers numbed from the chill, yet she persisted, pushing through the discomfort while listening to the distant murmur of conversations and the occasional splash of other laundresses. The tension of her task contrasted sharply with the gentle rustling of leaves and the distant call of birds, blending human endeavor with the natural world around her. As Maya wrung out the last of the water from a heavy cloth, she remembered the elders' tales, stories of how those who dared to ignore the river's warnings faced misfortune. Shadows seemed to flicker at the edge of her vision, and her heartbeat quickened with the weight of history and superstition. She felt a flicker of doubt, but tightened her grip on the soaked fabric and pressed on, driven by the necessity of clean linen and the hope of earning her place in the community. The water's icy grip was a constant reminder of nature's power and the human vulnerability beneath the effort. Sunlight cast long shadows across the stones, as if emphasizing the boundary between safety and danger, an eternal struggle etched into the fabric of of everyday life. By late morning, Maya had transformed raw fibers into a woven tapestry of effort and resilience. Hanging her clothes on nearby branches to dry under the watchful eye of the shifting sun, the villagers now gathered around the basin, exchanging stories, gossip, and shared laughter, momentarily dispelling the tension Maya had carried all morning. Her hands, rough and calloused, brushed against a worn cloth, stains fading beneath her steady scrubbing. She looked up at the blurred figures of the elders, their faces hidden by shadow or dawn light, reminding her that tradition and caution persisted across generations. As she watched her laundry gently sway with the breeze, Maya felt a mixture of pride, fatigue, and silent respect for the cycle of daily life that bound her community. Each act, simple yet vital, connected her to all those who had faced the same icy waters before her. When her work was finally done, Maya stepped back, observing her freshly cleaned clothes fluttering softly in the gentle breeze. The day's labor had tested her resolve, her endurance, and her courage to face the natural elements and the weight of collective memory. She knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, perhaps different or even more perilous, but the experience had planted a seed of confidence within her. As she returned to the village square, the elders' hushed warnings echoed faintly in her mind, not as threats, but as tokens of respect for the forces she dared to confront. When evening fell over Helios, the stories around the fires would include the day Maya learned why survival depended on humility, strength, and community, and why ancient laundry day was never a trivial task. She carried with her not just clean clothes, but a deeper understanding of her place in the woven fabric of life. As Maya stepped into the cool, flowing waters of the river, the gentle current seemed inviting at first. The river's surface shimmered with ripples of sunlight, and the scent of wet earth filled the air, a reminder of the countless daily chores performed along its banks. Her hands grasped a wooden dipper, ready to scoop water for washing, but the river proved unpredictable. Suddenly, with a quick surge, a strong current trapped her foot beneath the surface, forcing her to struggle against the momentum. Nearby, mischievous river otters darted playfully, snatching her soap and darting through the water with their tiny paws. The moment felt both humorous and dangerous, a reminder of nature's lively unpredictability and the risks woven into daily life. As Maya steadied herself and tried to retrieve her soap, the atmosphere shifted suddenly. A faint spark, slipping from a blacksmith's forge farther up the riverbank, drifted on the breeze and landed among the dry reeds. In an instant, the flames erupted, crackling loudly as they engulfed the dry vegetation, quickly transforming into a wildfire. The heat radiated fiercely even from a distance, sending waves of warmth and smoke into the air. Trees and reeds ignited like tinder, threatening to spread across the riverbank in a destructive blaze. Maya's heart pounded as she realized her simple task was now a struggle for safety, navigating both the rushing water and the encroaching flames in a precarious dance with nature's fury. Panic and concern rippled through the scene as Maya looked around desperately for a way to escape. The once calm river had become a hazardous barrier, water churning against her legs, while the fire crept ever closer. The sound of crackling reeds mixed with the rush of the current and her own shallow breaths, creating a chaotic symphony of survival. With cautious steps, she moved along the rocky, muddy shore, trying to keep her balance amidst the trembling heat that threatened to overtake her. Shadows of burning reeds flickered in her eyes, and the smell of smoke fouled the air, making her eyes water. Every moment tested her resilience against the elements, reminding her of the fragile line between daily routine and disaster. Guided by instinct and sheer determination, Maya found a patch of damp earth that offered brief respite from the flames. She paused, her bare feet cold and trembling, as she watched the fire leap across the reeds and overgrown brush. The river's water still flowed nearby, a vital escape route, but crossing it now seemed perilous, with smoke filling her lungs and heat scalding her skin. Above, the silhouette of a distant figure blurred by shadow, and light hinted at help, or perhaps another struggle. Yet in this moment, Maya's focus was solely on survival. Her muscles ached, her breath came in ragged gasps, and she knew that each step forward was a gamble between hope and disaster. The fire's fury served as a relentless reminder of nature's power and the unpredictability of life. Eventually, Maya reached a safer stretch along the riverbank, where the flames began to wane and the smoke subsided. The exhausted woman stood momentarily amidst the remnants of reeds and ash, her body covered in dirt and sweat, gazing across the scorched landscape. The air was thick with the scent of burned vegetation, and her senses were heightened by the ordeal. Though her clothes were singed and her hands roughened, a quiet humility settled within her, an understanding that daily life in this landscape was fragile and fleeting. With her heart still pounding, Maya paused to reflect on how ordinary tasks could become extraordinary tests of resilience, reminding her of the enduring human fight against nature's unpredictable currents and creatures. On a day seemingly ordinary yet burdened with tradition, Maya prepared the freshly washed linens under the watchful sky. The air held the scent of soap and water, tinged with the faint warmth of the sun drying fabric. as she carried the pile towards the sacred pool. Her footsteps crunched softly on the rough stone path, each movement deliberate and careful. The town's priestess, shrouded in an indistinct blur of light, had issued a solemn demand. The linens must be submerged in the consecrated waters for purification, a ritual thick with expectation and history. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she approached, knowing that failure could mean more than just messy laundry. It could threaten her standing in the community. The sacred pool was nestled at the edge of the town, a simple basin shaded by gnarled trees, its surface shimmering with reflected light. Near the water's edge, a heron stood rigid and aloof, its feathers a dull gray, eyes sharp and vigilant. As Maya extended her arms to lower the linens, the heron's head snapped up, its gaze fixed and commanding. Without warning, a loud buzzing erupted from the nearby bushes, tiny insects swarming aggressively. Angry from the disturbance, the peaceful scene turned chaotic in seconds. Frantic insects filled the air, biting and stinging, clouding Maya's vision and clouding her mind with panic. The once quiet ritual morphed into a frantic scramble, testing her endurance and patience. Amidst the swarm, Maya's skin prickled with the relentless sting, each insect landing with sharp, burning bite. Her hands flailed in uncertain effort to steady the linens, now slick with sweat and insect debris. The harsh noise of buzzing filled her ears, competing with her ragged breaths and the pounding of her heart. The heron, disturbed by the upheaval, remained frozen, a silent sentinel watching the chaos unfold. Shadows danced across her face from the swarming insects, and her clothes clung to her damp skin as she fought exhaustion. Every inch of her being screamed for mercy, yet she persisted, driven by the weight of tradition and the fear of disgrace that loomed just beyond her reach. Gradually, the swarm began to ebb, the insects flickering away like fleeting shadows, leaving Maya trembling on the edge of exhaustion. She paused for a moment, her chest heaving, feeling the sting still lingering on her skin. The sacred pool's surface was now disturbed, ripples spreading outward as she lowered the linens with trembling hands. The heron, its head bowed slightly, seemed to acknowledge her struggle without comment, its body still as stone. The sunlight waned, casting long, gentle shadows over the scene, silent witnesses to her ordeal. Maya's bloodied fingers brushed the wet fabric, and a quiet sense of relief washed over her, laced with a realization of how high the cost of simple duty could be. As she stepped back from the pool, Maya's body sagged with relief and fatigue. The air was thick with the scent of damp linen and lingering insect stings, a tactile reminder of her ordeal. She glanced at the sacred water one last time, wondering if her effort had met the silent expectations of those unseen clerics behind the ritual. The blurred face of the priestess disappeared into the shade. Her presence felt, but not seen. Maya's senses remained alert. Yet there was a quiet hum of humility within her, an acknowledgement of human fragility in the face of tradition's relentless march. In the stillness that followed, she realized that some rites demanded more than just physical effort. They tested the very limits of perseverance and resolve. On a seemingly ordinary morning in ancient times, Maya and her family gathered by the river to perform their weekly laundry, a vital chore that connected them to nature and tradition. Wet stones and wooden basins lined the riverbank as women pounded cloth and soaked garments. The air filled with the sounds of splashing water and muffled chatter. Suddenly, an ominous dark cloud gathered overhead, and a fierce storm erupted without warning. Rain poured down in relentless sheets, and the swollen river behind it began to swell and surge, threatening to consume everything in its path. In that instant, Maya's focus shifted from her laundry to the terrifying force of nature, realizing that their ordinary day was about to turn into a fight for survival. Within moments, the river's waters spilled over its banks, transforming into a raging torrent that pulled at everything near its edge. Maya, clutching a floating bundle of damp garments, felt the icy grip of the current tugging her away from the shore. Her hands scrabbled desperately for something stable as debris, broken wood, and overturned basins tumbled past her, creating a chaotic scene of destruction. The shoreline receded rapidly, and she was forced to surrender to the power of the flood, her body tossed by the swirling chaos. Despite her fear, Maya's survival instinct prompted her to cling tightly to her precious laundry, a symbol of her life's routines amid the roaring violence around her. With each panic-filled moment, she realized how fragile the balance was between everyday life and nature's uncontrollable fury. As Maya was carried downstream, she spotted a crumbling stone bridge ahead, its arches weakened and shrouded in the spray of the storm. The structure, once a sturdy crossing, now threatened to collapse entirely, debris banging against its pillars as the water raged beneath. Somehow, she managed to steer her buoyant bundle toward the remnants, praying the tattered rocks and cracked foundation would hold. The thunderous sound of crashing water and the distant groan of collapsing masonry echoed in her ears, heightening her senses to every peril. With no clear escape, Maya's eyes shone with a mix of desperation and resolve, knowing that survival required more than strength. It demanded quick thinking and a measure of hope. The collapsing bridge loomed closer, a final obstacle between her and safety amidst the flood's chaos. Just as the structure gave way with a thunderous crack, Maya felt her floating bundle swept into the plunging waters as the bridge caved into the river's maw. Cold, dark, and suffocating, the floodwaters threatened to drown her entirely, pulling her into the depths where she could barely breathe. Her body was tossed and turned, disoriented by the fierce movement and roaring currents around her. Yet her grip on her laundry persisted. She was submerged briefly, the pressure of the water pressing against her chest and the sound of turbulent water filling her ears. Emerging from the tumult, Maya found herself semi-adrift, exhausted but alive, realizing that her fragile bundle was her last tether to hope amid the relentless flood. It was a moment of terrible clarity. Nature's fury was an unstoppable force, and her small human presence was nearly lost in its rush. After what felt like an eternity in the water's grip, Maya's strength allowed her to reach a quieter corner of the riverbank, where the storm's rage began to subside. Gasping for breath, she clung to her soggy laundry and the remnants of her courage, gazing at the battered landscape around her. The storm had passed, leaving destruction in its wake: broken trees, scattered debris, and the battered bridge that now lay submerged. Though exhausted, Maya's mind was filled with a complex mix of relief and reflection. Her simple act of laundry had turned into a test of resilience against the raw power of nature. As she gradually regained her footing, she understood that surviving such moments demanded not just strength, but also humility in the face of life's unpredictable storms, both literal and symbolic. On an unassuming morning long ago, villagers gathered near the riverbank, their worn wooden washboards and rough cloths in hand. The air was thick with the scent of soap and wet linen as women and men labored under the sun's watchful gaze. Among them, Maya, a young woman eager to prove herself, pushed her laundry into the cold, murky water, unaware of the hidden dangers lurking in the routine chore. The rhythmic splash of water and muffled conversations blended into a monotonous symphony, echoing the timelessness of daily life. But amid the gentle hum of activity, a faint warning lingered in the air, a caution about overexertion and neglecting nature's silent signals. As Maya wrung out a heavy cloth, the sky darkened unexpectedly. A storm was brewing unseen behind the distant hills. The breeze grew sharp and cold, causing the water to ripple and splash unexpectedly high. Ignoring her instincts, Maya pressed on, desperate to finish before the rain broke. Suddenly, a violent gust tore through the riverbank, sweeping her off her feet, her clothes tangling and pulling her into the rushing current. Her limbs flailed helplessly as her view blurred with seawater and tearing fabric. The world spinning in chaos. Just when hope seemed lost, a passing fisherman, alert amidst the storm's fury, tossed a sturdy coil of rope that caught Maya and pulled her to safety. Bruised and exhausted, Maya found herself stranded on a rocky shoreline, cold and trembling, yet alive. The fisherman's weathered face was shadowed, his features obscured by the dim light of the dwindling storm. She looked back at the turbulent river, the relentless water still rushing with destructive force. Her mind raced through the days of old warnings about laundry day, about respecting the power of water, about listening to the subtle signals your body and environment give. It was a harsh but vital lesson etched into her memory. Chores like laundry, seemingly simple, could turn fatal in the face of nature's unpredictable might. Though battered, Maya vowed never to forget that ancient wisdom, to honor it in her future days. In the quiet aftermath, Maya slowly made her way home, each step heavy with reflection. Her body ached, yet her mind was sharper, filled with the weight of hard-won lessons about respect, caution, and humility before nature's forces. She thought about how generations before her had faced these dangers daily, the whisper of the wind, the shift of the sky, the unseen threats in so-called mundane tasks. Her tale became one of silent warning, once shared, a reminder that even the simplest chores demanded vigilance and respect. She carried with her the humility born from survival, knowing that what humans often overlook can quickly turn deadly if ignored. Her story served to remind others that beneath the veneer of routine lay life's fragile balance. Standing on the sandy shore, Maya shared her experience with wary villagers, her voice calm but persistent. Shadows from the fading sun flickered across her face, which remained hidden by a gentle half-light, her eyes thoughtful. She recounted the storm, the struggle, and her rescue, emphasizing that ancient lessons about water, weather, and work had stood the test of time for good reason. Her tale became a quiet testament to human resilience and the importance of heedfulness in daily life. Though modern life often forgets the peril woven into old routines, Maya's story continued to echo in whispers, reminding all that respecting nature's lessons is essential for survival. Through her words, the fundamental truth endured. Humility and awareness are vital shields against the quiet dangers that lurk in everyday chores. In ancient Rome, the bustling markets and crowded streets concealed a darker reality beneath their lively surface. Among the city's laborers, young Lucius began his apprenticeship under Flavia, a seasoned laundress whose hands had washed countless togas and garments. The Tiber River, noisy with splashing water and the distant hum of commerce, was central to their work, its waters thick with effluence from the city's waste. The air was heavy with the scent of soap, sweat, and mud, blending into a pungent aroma that clung to everything, unbeknownst to Lucius. The river's dark depths harbored unseen threats that would change his life forever. As days turned into weeks, Lucius learned to dip and wring, to scrub and rinse, his fingers growing numb from cold water and rough cloth. Flavia's voice was calm, her movements rhythmical as she explained the importance of cleanliness. Yet her eyes often flicked toward the river with a hint of concern. The water, once clear, had turned a muddy hue, swirling with debris and unseen chemicals. Beneath its surface lurked a silent menace, bacteria and pathogens thriving in the polluted depths. Invisible to the naked eye, the labor was exhausting, but the routine was comforting. Little did they understand how deadly that routine could be. Over time, Lucius began to notice small signs of illness among some of the older launders: fevers, feebleness, sudden aches. Flavia warned him to stay cautious, remembering past tragedies that had struck their workshop. Workers rarely spoke of the dangers of the river's filth, but their skin sometimes sizzled or broken open beneath their rough gloves. The water's warmth and the physical strain created the perfect environment for bacteria to breed, inflicting deadly infections. For many, these silent invaders slowly claimed their strength, turning their hard-earned labor into a deadly gamble every day. The river's hidden health hazard was a well-kept secret that no one openly discussed. One blistering morning, Lucius felt sudden chills, muscles aching with a deep, unshakable fever. Flavia's experience told her the danger was more immediate than ever. These infections could spread swiftly, turning minor wounds into fatal crises. She hurriedly wrapped Lucius's arm, avoiding the open cuts, and urged him to rest. The disease, caused by bacteria entering through cuts or the skin, was insidious in its simplicity, thriving in the contaminated water and soil. The city's waste, runoff, and human waste all funneled into the river, creating a toxic soup of microbes. Despite their efforts, many workers fell ill with no warning, their vitality drained away by relentless infections. The river's grime was a silent assassin, lurking in every splashed droplet. In the quiet aftermath, as Lucius slowly recovered, he began to understand the true hazard of their work. The river of stains, once just a source of livelihood, revealed itself as a deadly conduit for infection, a hidden enemy lurking beneath the surface. Flavia's face, blurred in the memory, seemed to fade into the shadow of the past, replaced by a new awareness of the risks they faced daily. The workers' resilience was rooted in shared hardship and silent understanding of mortal danger. Their humble routines, marked by simple soap and determined hands, contrasted sharply with the unseen threat beneath the water's murky veneer. It was a story of human endurance, but also of silent peril concealed within the most ordinary aspects of life. In the bustling heart of ancient Rome, laundry workers gathered at the riverbank each morning, their wooden tubs and woven cloths soaking in the murky waters that flowed relentlessly. The scent of damp linen mingled with the earthy aroma of wet clay and decaying organic matter, creating an environment both vibrant and unclean. As they scrubbed and wrung out garments, subtle signs of illness began to surface, coughs that echoed across the waterside and feverish whispers among the tired laborers. Rumors soon spread that the gods, wrathful and unseen, had cursed their ritual of cleansing, punishing them for offenses etched into the fabric of their daily toil. Yet, amidst their fears, no one fully understood the invisible threat lurking beneath the suds and slime, silently claiming lives. One of the most observant workers, Lucius, noticed a dark, foul-smelling basin tucked away at the edge of the riverside, where waste from the city's sewer slipped into the water. The basin's surface was slick and coated with a thick, greenish slime that glowed faintly under the weak sunlight. Curious and disturbed, Lucius dipped his hand into the tangle of mud and filth, feeling its cold, gritty consistency contract around his fingers. The foul, decaying stench hit his senses, the persistent reminder that something unnatural and rotten was festering beneath the surface. His unease grew with each passing day as more workers fell ill, feverish, coughing, and weak conditions they could neither explain nor dismiss as mere exhaustion. It became painfully clear that the water, the very lifeblood of their craft, had become a conduit for unseen dangers. As illness spread, panic and superstition gripped the laundry guild, whose members began whispering of divine punishment and angry spirits. The once casual chatter turned into fearful debates about whether they had angered the gods with their polluting practices. Some held their breath as they worked, fearing that each inhale might summon a curse or bring forth some hidden scourge. Others avoided the basin altogether, but Lucius, fueled by curiosity and dread, conducted secret inspections, uncovering patches of slime that seemed to pulse with a sickly life of their own. The air around the basin felt thick and oppressive, almost alive with a silent menace. Their livelihood and health were slipping away, and the invisible enemy was now undeniable, a sickness born from the contaminated waters they depended on. Night after night, Lucius wrestled with the hopelessness of their situation, his mind haunted by the sickening sights and the unspoken shadow that lurked beneath the basin's surface. The once quiet river now seemed to whisper warnings during the early dawn, its waters churning with unnatural agitation. As more workers succumbed to fever, coughing fits, and weakness, the reality set in. No amount of prayer or superstition could halt the relentless spread of infection. Disease and decay had infiltrated their craft, driven by the very waters that had sustained them. The community's resilience waned, replaced by a stark awareness of their vulnerability. Humans powerless against the unseen microbes that proliferated in the filth and slime. A silent, invisible war was waged in their workplaces, one they could neither see nor control. In this moment of crisis, Lucius and a few others contemplated drastic measures, draining the contaminated basin, cleansing the tools, and perhaps seeking cleaner water sources. Yet the knowledge of the foul, slime-covered basin's existence cast a long shadow over their daily lives. Without understanding its true nature, the presence of deadly pathogens, they faced a tragic truth. Their occupational environment was a breeding ground for infection, and their traditional practices had unwittingly exposed them all to peril. As the workers returned to their tasks, the river's whisper seemed to carry a somber message, reminding them of the thin line between health and sickness, cleanliness and decay. The once simple act of washing linen had become a painful reminder of their shared fragility and the unseen dangers lurking within their seemingly ordinary world. In ancient Roman laundries, workers faced a daily battle against dirt, sweat, and stubborn stains. They relied on simple yet harsh methods, spreading garments under the blazing sun in hopes that its heat would disinfect and bleach the fabrics. The air was thick with the smell of ash from nearby fire pits, as ash replaced modern chemicals to aid in cleaning. As the sun beat down relentlessly, the cloths fluttered in the hot breeze, their fibers growing damp from sweat and residual moisture. The workers, many of whom had little protective gear, endured the oppressive heat with weary hands and tired eyes, unaware of the microscopic dangers lurking within the damp corners of their workshops. Despite their efforts to sanitize, the dark corners of the laundry remained plagued by mold, an insidious growth that thrived in the damp, poorly ventilated spaces. Tiny, almost invisible, mold sent out filmy spores into the air, which clung to the cloth and settled on surfaces. The workers often pried apart garments tangled with sweat and grime, unknowingly disturbing the mold colonies that flourished in hidden crevices. The faint, musty smell of mold intertwined with the lingering scent of ash and sun-baked fabric, creating an oppressive atmosphere. Their hands, rough and calloused, brushed against these damp corners, unknowingly disturbing the spores that could cause unseen harm. This persistent presence of mold would prove deadly, as some workers began to fall ill without understanding the cause. One respected elder among the launders, a man whose face was often shadowed beneath a broad hat, suddenly grew pale and feverish after a long day of work. His body trembled as a hemorrhagic fever took hold, a terrifying ailment that caused internal bleeding and weakness. His colleagues watched helplessly as his strength waned, the once steady voice silenced by uncontrollable bleeding from his nose and mouth. The local community, familiar with many hardships, felt a chilling sense of unease, suspecting that their harsh working conditions might be at fault. The elder's decline cast a pall over the workshop, hinting at the deadly toll of their relentless labor and exposure to unrecognized dangers. His suffering became a stark reminder of the invisible threats woven into their daily lives. As news of the elder's illness spread, a wave of fear and uncertainty swept through the laundry workers. Many began to notice symptoms, fevers, weakness, and unexplained bleeding in their own bodies. Without modern understanding of infectious diseases, they could only attribute these symptoms to divine punishment or moral failing. Yet the reality was more immediate and tangible. Their damp, mold-infested environment carried deadly microbes capable of causing severe infections. The community's leaders and onlookers started asking questions, but clear answers remained elusive in the absence of scientific knowledge. The workshop, once a place of labor and routine, had become a crucible of unseen microbial threats, silently claiming more lives and deepening the crisis. On quiet evenings, as the workers gathered outside, they often looked at the blurred horizon where the sunlight softened into dusk, shadows of their hardships stretching long. Their faces, featured with gentle lines and tired expressions, told stories of toil and silent suffering beneath their simple tunics. Despite the grim circumstances, life persisted, filled with the hum of conversation, laughter, and shared fatigue. The scene was painted in warm, muted tones, reflecting a fragile human resilience against invisible dangers. Their quiet daily routines, touched with a touch of humor or sleepiness, hinted at hope, the hope that understanding and change might someday bring safer work conditions and relief from their deadly, overlooked foes. In the bustling districts of ancient Rome, the work of launders was both essential and perilous. Men and women gathered at communal washing stations, their hands immersed in rough water as they scoured and rinsed. The air was filled with the scent of soap, sweat, and the faint fumes of sewage runoff nearby. Without knowledge of microscopic dangers, these laborers continued their daily routines, their faces often weary, yet unthinking of hidden threats. Little did they suspect that beneath the surface, lethal pathogens thrived in the murky water, ready to infect anyone who rinsed in these contaminated baths. One fateful day, a sharp wave of sickness swept through the district, catching everyone off guard. Workers began collapsing in the streets, their faces pale and eyes glassy as fever and chills overtook them. The clatter of footsteps turned into frantic shouts and echoing mourning. Bodies piled up alongside alleyways, overwhelmed by an invisible foe that spread through the community with ruthless speed. The once busy laundry yards fell silent, haunted by the chorus of suffering and the stark realization that daily chores carried deadly risks. The community was gripped by fear, yet the cause remained elusive to many. Amidst the chaos, Lucius, a cautious and observant craftsman, began to investigate the source of the outbreak. He noticed the patterns. The most affected were those who worked with water and cloth, handling the same stagnant, murky runoff from nearby latrines. As he examined the waterways, he discerned a disturbing connection. Septic bacteria from human waste had contaminated the washing water, transforming it into a veritable bath of disease. His eyes adjusted to the grim reality. The very act of cleaning were now acts of danger, their purpose corrupted by unseen microbes thriving in filth. The truth uncovered, Lucius felt a mixture of dread and resolve. The realization prompted urgent efforts to change the sanitation practices of the district. Authorities and workers scrambled to drain stagnant pools, improve water flow, and segregate waste from washing areas. Yet the damage had already seeped into daily routines, revealing how fragile health was in the face of unseen microbes. The community grappled with the moral weight of their negligence, recognizing that neglect and ignorance had turned their labor into a deadly game. The lessons carved into their collective memory underscored the importance of hygiene and the price paid when it was overlooked. As the city slowly rebuilt, the shadow of infection lingered, a solemn reminder of nature's quiet menace. In quiet moments, scholars and surviving workers reflected on the tragedy. The blurred faces of distant prophets and teachers symbolized the forgotten wisdom of cleanliness and caution. Their silent lessons urged vigilance against unseen dangers lurking within everyday life. The story of the launderers became a solemn tale of human resilience and error, highlighting how simple daily actions could turn deadly in the absence of knowledge. Their struggles served as a timeless reminder that progress depends on understanding and respect for the unseen worlds that intertwine with human life. Though the infection eventually waned, the memory endured, etched into history as a warning and a testament to human vulnerability and perseverance. In ancient Rome, launderers worked tirelessly amid risks they barely understood, their hands immersed in steaming water and harsh soaps. The air around their modest washhouses was thick with the scent of alkali and sweat, while the clatter of wooden tubs and scrubbing cloths echoed through bustling courtyards. Yet beneath this rhythmic routine lay a silent threat, fatal infections that could strike without warning, often claiming lives before cures were known. These workers, many of whom were local artisans or enslaved laborers, faced danger daily, not from their craft alone, but from invisible germs lurking in contaminated water and unwashed linens. Their toil was noble, but haunted by an ever-present shadow of deadly disease. It was a reality that, despite their resilience, challenged the very fabric of their survival. Following a series of devastating outbreaks, the Roman Senate responded with a set of new sanitation laws aimed at protecting these essential workers. Authorities decreed strict separation of waste channels and laundry streams, constructing designated pathways to prevent sewage from contaminating washing water. Stone channels were lined and monitored, their waters flowing away from public spaces and workshops, an effort to curb the spread of unseen bacteria. These regulations signified a recognition that cleanliness was intertwined with civic duty and public health. Yet enforcement was gradual and often uneven, as poverty and neglect hampered compliance. Still, the laws marked a crucial turning point, shining a light on the importance of sanitation in daily life and labor. Amid these changes, individuals like Lucius and Flavia embraced new practices with quiet determination. They carefully boiled their water, listening for the gentle bubbling of their metal vessels, feeling the heat warm their hands. They infused herbal extracts, roses, mint, and thyme, hoping to add a measure of safety and refreshment to their routines. Every cloth they washed and rinsed was handled with care, their motions deliberate and measured, mindful of the invisible threats. In honoring those who had fallen to infection, they resolved to wash with greater diligence, driven by a mixture of hope and sorrow. Their small acts of change became acts of remembrance, a silent tribute to lives lost, and a pledge to protect future generations. Over time, the community observed subtle shifts. Illness rates began to decline, and spirits grew slightly lighter among the workers. The steam from boiling water in their humble washhouses rose into the warm air like a quiet prayer. People continued to work amid the routine sounds of cloth dragging through water and muted conversations, their faces showing gentle resilience rather than defeat. The blurred figures of prophets or teachers, often unseen, stared from shadows or behind veiled windows, silently urging progress without overt words. These silent witnesses embodied the hope that collective effort and better knowledge could transform hardship into a safer, more humane labor. Still, they knew the fight against invisible enemies was ongoing, demanding vigilance and compassion. Today, the legacy of that turbulent era reminds us of the profound human effort woven into simple acts, scrubbing, boiling, infusing herbs, each a testament to resilience amid adversity. The story of ancient Roman launderers is not just one of hygiene, but of moral courage and innovation driven by necessity. Their struggles and small victories echo through history, inspiring a recognition that health and dignity are intertwined in every thread of daily life. Walking through the quiet streets, one can imagine the faint scent of herbs and heated water, a subtle reminder that progress often begins with humble steps. Their story, etched into the foundations of sanitation, continues to teach us that even in the face of unseen dangers, human ingenuity and compassion can forge a safer future. In the heart of Unwick, a lively market town nestled amidst rolling green hills, young Myra stepped into the bustling dye works with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. The air buzzed with the clatter of wooden tools and the sharp scent of fermented plant dyes as workers moved rhythmically around steaming vats. She marveled at the vibrant crimson cloth drying in the sun, its fiery hue drawing the admiration of passers-by. Yet beneath the surface of this colorful enterprise lurked quiet danger, hidden within the shimmering depths of the vats. Myra's eyes sparkled with wonder, unaware of the toxic secrets bubbling just beneath the surface of her craft. Master Corvin, an experienced and stoic dye master, observed Myra as she arranged bundles of dyed fabric, his face partially obscured by a shadow that softened his features. When she asked about the bright crimson, he hesitated before softly warning her about the vats filled with copper compounds, an essential yet hazardous ingredient. His voice carried a weight of experience, recalling the silent toll these chemicals took on workers over generations. Corvin's words carried an unspoken warning. The beauty of their cloth was intertwined with unseen risks that could quietly harm those who worked closest to the dyes. Myra listened, her youthful innocence battling the grim truth behind the shimmering reds. Unbeknownst to many, the guildmaster in the shadows was secretly orchestrating a vast order for the king's court, commissioning the deepest, richest reds for imperial garments. This clandestine decision sent ripples through the dye house, pushing their processes to the limit to meet the extreme demands. The tension between tradition and ambition grew palpable as the workers pushed through long hours, unaware of the increasing dangers lurking in the copper-laden baths. The bright dyes now seemed a paradox, beautiful yet perilous, alluring yet toxic, mirroring the complex moral choice faced by those involved. As the guildmaster's shadowy figures conspired, the factory's once humble work transformed into an enterprise shadowed by greed and risk. As weeks passed, the rising heat and the chemical fumes grew more oppressive, their presence undeniable in the cramped, smoky rooms. Myra's skin tingled as she helped with bleaching and dyeing, the metallic tang lingering in the air. Some workers, visibly worn and tired, had begun to show signs of illness, skin irritation, persistent coughs, and fatigue that never faded. Corvin, watching quietly from a distance, knew the hidden toll was mounting, the toxic baths claiming silent victims. The danger lurked in every splash of dye and every breath, revealing the human cost behind the vibrant cloth. The sheen of the crimson river masked the price paid in human suffering, as the town's livelihoods remained tethered to secret and dangerous knowledge. In the quiet aftermath, Myra reflected on the fragile balance between craftsmanship and consequence, contemplating the unseen costs of beauty and commerce. The blurred faces of the prophets, or wise figures in the town's murals, seemed to watch silently over this moral dilemma, their features and voices lost to time and shadow. The crimson river continued to flow through Ulnwick's streets, an emblem of human ingenuity, intertwined with peril, reminding all of the quiet sacrifices made in pursuit of art and status. The story of these toxic secrets lingered in the air, a gentle warning etched into the fabric of history. Through her gaze, Myra understood that some dyes carried not just color, but caution, woven into the very threads of their world. In the dim, dusty corners of the medieval workshop, Myra's keen eyes caught sight of a neglected space where workers carelessly tossed discarded dye vats into a small, stagnant pool. The mire was quiet, except for the dull, lapping sounds of a slow current, but it coiled with an unsettling scent, an unnatural mixture of earth and chemical tang that seemed to cling to the air. As she approached, she noticed the surface shimmered with a faint, oily film, and the faint bones of broken plant stems floated amidst murky water, whispering silent warnings. The oppressive haze seemed to thicken near this corner, a toxic veil that made her cough involuntarily and prickled her skin with strange rashes, forcing her to step back. The sight disturbed her, revealing a hidden danger lurking beneath the craft of vibrant color, a dangerous disregard for health and nature in pursuit of beauty. Just as Myra struggled with her rising alarm, a traveling alchemist named Brother Alden arrived, carrying a leather satchel bulging with mysterious bottles and worn papers. His weathered face was shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat, but his eyes shimmered with quiet curiosity. He paused beside the mire, inhaling deeply as if tasting the very fumes, then glanced at Myra with an expression that hinted at hidden knowledge and concern. Without revealing too much, he alluded to the dangerous ingredients in the dyes, particularly arsenic and lead, that were often leached from native minerals and used to deepen or stabilize the colors. His soft voice suggested regret, yet he urged Myra to see past the surface, warning her that beauty often bore a deadly secret. Her heart pounded with a mixture of fear and fascination, caught between admiration for the craft and dread of the hidden harms. Intrigued and unsettled, Myra pressed him for details about the toxic substances, sensing that everything she thought she knew about her work was incomplete or dangerously skewed. Brother Alden explained how the mineral-rich dyes, while capable of producing striking hues, contained deadly elements that could poison those who handled or ingested them unknowingly. He pointed to the old, rusted tools nearby, symbolizing how dangerous chemicals seeped into everyday life, subtly corrupting the environment and the workers who toiled in silence. Myra's fingers trembled as she considered the consequences. Eyes that saw beauty now clouded with moral and health concerns. The alchemist's words, gentle yet firm, left her pondering the true cost of their craft and the unseen toll it exacts on both humans and nature. As Brother Alden prepared to depart, he cast a shadowed glance toward the murky mire, hinting at the need for caution and change, though he left few concrete instructions, only a faint promise to reveal more if they met again. Myra watched him walk away, the soft footfalls muffled by the uneven cobblestones, her mind racing with conflicting feelings of admiration and dread. She felt a growing responsibility to uncover the truth behind the dyes, recognizing that the vibrant colors so prized in their textiles might carry a sinister toxicity that compromised health and morality. The scene seemed frozen in a quiet moment of moral awakening, where craftsmanship and conscience intersect, and Myra knew her quest for transparency and safety had only begun. The silent, dangerous mire remained behind her, a haunting emblem of the secrets woven into their daily lives. With new awareness burning within her, Myra resolved to investigate further, understanding that uncovering these hidden toxins was necessary, not only for her own safety, but for everyone involved in the trade. The workshop's daily hum carried on, but her gaze lingered on the neglected corner, now seen in a new, ominous light. Her discovery revealed the bleak truth behind the vibrant dyes. Beauty often concealed a toxic core, a moral dilemma etched into history itself. As she prepared to challenge the silence and uncover fair truths, Myra felt the weight of a silent revolution rising in her heart, one born out of curiosity, fear, and a desire for justice. The secretive Myra, once invisible, now stood as a stark reminder of humanity's blind pursuit of perfection at great cost. In the dimly lit back corridors of the Guildhall, Myra and Alden moved cautiously, their eyes fixed on the aged, dusty shelves stuffed with fragile scrolls and faded parchments. The air was thick with the scent of dried herbs and the faint metallic tang of old ink, whispering secrets of the dying craft that had been passed down through generations. As they slipped behind a heavy wooden door, they uncovered a hidden ledger, its pages weathered but still legible, revealing a clandestine agreement. The text confirmed the guild's alliance with a distant mining lord who supplied the toxic minerals that infused their dyes with vibrant, yet deadly, hues. A sense of dread and curiosity washed over them as they realized the true cost of the brilliant colors, silent suffering, and environmental ruin cloaked behind tradition and secrecy. Suddenly, the faint creak of the old wooden floor alerted them they had been noticed. The faint scuff of boots and muffled shouts echoed through the stone corridors as guild enforcers, draped in heavy cloaks and armed with crude instruments, appeared in pursuit. Myra and Alden's hearts pounded as they darted through narrow hallways, their breaths ragged in the cold air. Behind them, the thick, smoky smell of a spreading fire began to fill the air, an unintended consequence of their hurried escape. Ignited by their hurried movements, or perhaps the guild's desperate measures, the flames cast flickering shadows on the stone walls, highlighting the urgency of their flight as the building crackled and shuddered around them. Every step was a gamble, every corner a narrow chance to evade capture before the entire archive was consumed in fire. Bursting out into the open courtyard, Myra and Alden clung to the shadows, their clothes smudged and faces streaked with soot. The distant chatter of the enforcers grew louder as they hurried toward the alleyways, blending into the chaotic hum of torches and hurried footsteps on cobblestone. The fire's glow painted the night sky in hues of orange and red, a stark contrast to the darkness of their discovery and the shadows of betrayal lurking beneath. They knew the secret of the toxic minerals could dismantle the guild's power. Yet now they faced the immediate danger of being caught in the chaos, an outcome that might mean imprisonment or worse. Their minds raced, knowing the truth was out now, but at what cost to themselves and the greater community? With trembling resolve, they pressed on, determined to expose the poisonous secret. The narrow back streets felt like labyrinths, each turn cloaked in shadows and uncertainty. Myra's mind darted back to the faces behind the blank, shadowed masks of the enforcers. They seemed almost faceless, symbols of the hidden force that thrived on secrecy and fear. Alden's grip was firm, but trembling as they moved swiftly toward a safe hiding place, aware that the guild's reach extended beyond mere walls, into the very fabric of town life. All around them, faint sounds of sirens and distant shouting signaled the chaos of their world unraveling. Yet, amid the treachery and danger, an undercurrent of human resilience fueled their escape, driven by the moral conviction that the truth about the toxic dye baths needed to surface. No matter the peril, every breath was a gamble between safety and exposure. Each step a quiet rebellion against corruption. As dawn approached, the fugitives finally found refuge in a modest home on the outskirts, its walls rough-hewn and quiet amid the awakening world. They looked at one another amid the lingering smoke and ash, their faces marked by fear, hope, and unwavering resolve. The secret they carried, the knowledge of poisoned dyes and shadowed deals, had changed them forever, binding them to a cause beyond their own safety. Outside, the first light touched the rooftops, casting soft, neutral hues over a landscape, unaware of the secrets hidden beneath its surface. Though exhausted, Myra and Alden felt a renewed sense of purpose. Their discovery could ignite a reckoning that might restore integrity to their craft. Resting in the calm of dawn, they understood that their story was only beginning. A quiet resolve to face the darkness with the truth in hand. Under the cold glow of the midnight moon, Myra stealthily approached the massive dye vats that dominated the workshop, her eyes fixed on Master Corvin and the Guildmaster, whose shadows flickered ominously in the flickering torchlight. The air was thick with the earthy scent of plants and chemicals, but beneath that layers of something far darker, an acrid, poisonous fumes that seemed to seep from the depths of the vats themselves. Myra's heart pounded as she noticed the steam curling up like ghostly tendrils, whispering secrets of danger hidden beneath the surface. With a firm resolve, she stepped forward, ready to confront the secrets buried within the dyes, knowing the truth could threaten everything she cared about. Her voice, trembling yet determined, cut through the silence as she demanded an explanation for the toxic fumes controlling the town's beloved craft. The Guildmaster's face remained obscured by shadow, but the flickering torchlight danced across his obscured features, revealing only hints of a nervous twitch. Master Corvin, however, stiffened visibly, his hands clenching the edge of a nearby bucket as his eyes darted around for an escape. Myra's words echoed in the still night, accusing them of poisoning both the dyes and the townsfolk who trusted their craft. Suddenly, a loud cracking sound shattered the tense silence, a catastrophic failure of the central vats, sending a burst of dark, swirling vapor into the air. The poisonous cloud billowed outward with a sickening hiss, enveloping the gathered crowd and turning their faces masked with panic and fear. Myra instinctively shielded her eyes, her breath hot and sharp, realizing that immediate action was crucial to prevent disaster. As the toxic fumes engulfed the scene, chaos erupted among the townsfolk, their instinct to run mingling with the choking, eye-watering vapors that clung to the skin and clothing. Suddenly, several figures coughed violently, clutching their throats as the poisonous cloud seeped deeper into the night air. Myra's gaze flicked toward the remaining vats, which now shimmered ominously as their supports wavered, threatening to collapse entirely. The prized crimson dye, once a symbol of beauty and prosperity, was now at imminent risk of being released in a deadly wave if the vats broke entirely. In that moment of panic, Myra faced a moral dilemma. Should she attempt to save her own masterpiece, or intervene to prevent further tragedy that could take innocent lives? The weight of her choice sat heavily on her shoulders, thick as the toxic fog around her. Moment by moment, the deteriorating vats threatened to spill their lethal contents onto the ground, releasing more of the hazardous vapors into the night. Myra's hands trembled as she hurried to stabilize the crumbling structures, her senses heightened by fear and urgency. The crimson dye's color shimmered under the flickering flames like burning embers, symbolizing both her work and her dilemma, whether to sacrifice it outright or find another way. Around her, the crowd's muffled shouts melded with coughs and the steady crackling of splintering wood, a grim symphony of impending disaster. With a deep breath, Myra realized she might have only moments left to decide: to preserve her precious dye at all costs, or to prioritize the lives of those around her. The future of the dye house hung in fragile balance, teetering dangerously on her resolve. In the final, desperate seconds, Myra made her choice. She lunged toward the largest vat, aiming to reinforce it with all her strength, knowing that the crimson dye, her finest work, would be lost forever if she failed. As the structure groaned and the fumes thickened, she pushed through the choking air, her face blurred and shadowed by the chaos, her eyes fixed solely on saving lives. The collapsing vats finally gave way with a thunderous crash, releasing a cloud of venomous vapor that wafted skyward like a dark warning. When the dust settled, Myra stood amidst the wreckage exhausted, covered in ash and dye, her moral victory bittersweet as she looked at the blackened ruins. The townsfolk, coughing and recovering, looked to her with exhausted gratitude, knowing she had risked everything for their safety. The night ended not with celebration, but with quiet reflection on the hidden dangers lurking beneath their crafts, and the courage needed to confront them. In the shadowed workshops of the medieval town, vibrant dyes had long been produced using toxic vats filled with hazardous chemicals. The air inside was thick with the pungent smell of mordants and plant extracts, and the water in the nearby river shimmered with unnatural hues, reflecting the dark secrets propelled by blood and poison. As illnesses grew among workers and contamination seeped into the waterways, the community faced a mounting awakening to the destructive toll of their craft. The once lively market stalls now whispered of fears, and the river's polluted cloak cast a bleak pall over the landscape, stirring a collective desire for change. Amidst this moral struggle, the town slowly recognized the urgent need to abandon toxic methods and seek safer, more humane ways to craft beauty. With the destructive vats finally dismantled, the town turned its efforts toward healing the scarred environment, especially the once-tainted river that had served both as a source of livelihood and pollution. Laborers and villagers gathered by the water's edge, their hands muddy and calloused, as they began the painstaking task of cleansing and restoring the flow of clear, life-giving water. New regulations inspired by a moral resolve took hold, prompting artisans to explore plant-based dyes cultivated from local flora, which emitted gentle, earthy aromas instead of poisonous fumes. The change was felt in the air, calmer, lighter, filled with tentative hope. Children played along the banks, unaware of the toxic past, but sensing the new serenity as nature slowly reclaimed its purity. At the heart of this transformation stood Myra, a skilled craftswoman whose quiet dedication symbolized the shift in moral conscience. Appointed as the master of the workshop, she carried the weight of history in her steady hands, yet looked forward with a resilient spirit. Her mornings began with the soft rustling of leaves and the smell of new plant dyes, brewing an invitation to honor true beauty without bloodshed. Myra meticulously taught her apprentices to extract colors from chamomile, marigold, and indigo, ensuring the traditions of craftsmanship survived in a sustainable and compassionate way. As she worked, her face was often shadowed, unseen, as if concealed by an inner resolve to forge a better future. Her quiet leadership inspired others to believe in renewal, rooted in respect for life and nature. In the tranquil dawn light, the town gathered to celebrate this moral and environmental rebirth. The river, gleaming beneath a rising sun that cast a warm glow over the renewed waterway. The air was filled with the gentle hum of conversations, the clink of pottery, and the soft splash of clear water as villagers washed and dressed in their simplest, most honest garments. Musicians played faint melodies, their tunes echoing a sense of peace and hope, while children's laughter rippled across the banks. The community stood together, knowing they had turned away from darkness towards a future built on transparency and kindness. Behind closed doors, no longer hidden by shame or silence, their collective effort manifested in the shimmering water, a symbol of their moral awakening and love for the world they were committed to nurture. As the world woke to the radiance of the new day, the river stretched untainted and pure, a mirror reflecting the golden hues of dawn. The gentle light illuminated a landscape cleansed from its toxic scars, whispering promises of growth and renewal. Myra stood quietly by the water's edge, her face softly blurred by the morning glow. As she watched the currents dance freely, an emblem of hope renewed and lessons learned, this peaceful scene captured the enduring human desire to create beauty with compassion and mindfulness, leaving behind a legacy of respect for nature's delicate balance. The town's journey from darkness to light etched itself into the history of this place, a testament to resilience, moral courage, and the silent, hopeful power of change. In the bustling heart of Thebes, the air hums with the sounds of daily labor, clattering looms, murmured conversations, and the distant ripple of the Nile. Novice weaver Nepheret, with sweat purling on her brow, shoulders the burden of her task, washing carefully crafted, pristine white linen. The sun beats down relentlessly, its rays turning the stone alleyways into pools of heat, yet her focus remains fixed on the task at hand, preparing the cloth for a sacred honoring of the sun god Ra. The river nearby offers a deceptive coolness, its surface shimmering softly in the bright midday light, masking the unseen dangers beneath. There is a quiet tension in the air, as everyone senses that this routine can hide lethal risks beneath its mundane surface. As Nepheret bends over the riverbank, she dips her hands into the cool water, feeling a brief reprieve from the scorching sun. The river feels strangely inviting after the sun's blazing assault, its gentle lapping sound contrasting with the clatter of the workshop behind her. The linen, white and smooth, floats on the water's surface as she meticulously rinses each piece, unaware of the danger. Above, The sky blazes a relentless orange, and the stones lining the river's edge are heated by hours of direct sunlight, glowing faintly red and orange. The heat radiates outward, creating an almost oppressive atmosphere, as if the very ground beneath her feet breathes fire under the guise of normalcy. In this moment, ordinary life teeters on the edge of danger, hidden in plain sight. After rinsing, Neferet prepares to dry the linen using a method passed down through generations, placing the cloth on heated stones brought from the riverbed. The stones, once used for cooking or smelting, are now a source of silent peril. Their blazing heat transfers directly to the fabric and the air around it. The intense temperature causes the linen to dry rapidly, but the surrounding stones radiate a fierce, smoldering heat that can easily burn or blister skin if one gets too close. As the fabric absorbs the heat, the risk extends beyond just the water. The very drying process holds hidden danger, a reminder that even familiar routines can turn deadly. The women working nearby finish their chores, eyes flicking nervously toward the fiery stones, sensing the lurking threat beneath the surface. Neferet's hands tremble slightly as she completes her task, the heat from the stones seeping into her palms through the fabric. The atmosphere, thick with heat, and the scent of sun-baked earth reveals how perilous this act can be, balancing on the edge between routine and catastrophe. The marketplace noise continues around her, distant voices calling out, the clang of tools. Yet her focus is broken by a sudden flash of discomfort, a fleeting dizziness, a brief shimmering of blurred vision as the extreme heat battles her senses. The unseen danger is ever present. Prolonged exposure to the furnace-heated stones can lead to burns, heat stroke, or worse, silently claiming lives that trust in the mundane safety of daily chores. The quiet lesson remains. Beneath the veneer of calm, danger often simmers unseen, ready to erupt without warning. As the day wanes and the shadows lengthen, Neferet begins to realize how the simple act of washing linen carried unforeseen risks, an ancient truth wrapped in daily ritual. The silent, glowing stones, once symbols of household warmth, now serve as a reminder of nature's relentless power and humankind's vulnerability. The experience leaves her with a quiet respect for the forces at play in even the most familiar tasks, a reminder to remain cautious amid routine. The river and the sun continue their eternal dance, indifferent to human fears, yet teaching a timeless lesson. Sometimes, ordinary chores can carry deadly secrets beneath their surface. With this newfound understanding, she resumes her work, grateful for life's fragile balance. The stone-strewn riverbank fades into the background, a silent testament to the hidden dangers of a world shaped by fire, water, and human effort. In the early hours of dawn, Neferet carefully plunged the heated linen into the rushing river, the stones beneath the water radiating residual warmth from the previous day's fires. The air was thick with humidity and the scent of damp earth, while the workers moved with purpose and weariness, their bodies soaked in sweat from the oppressive heat. As the linen softened and soaked up the cold water, a faint hiss seemed to rise from the stones, hinting at the fierce heat still lingering beneath. The scene was one of routine, yet beneath this quiet rhythm, a silent tension brewed, rooted in the ever-present danger of the intense climate. It was a moment when the simple act of washing could turn perilous, a testament to nature's unforgiving power over human labor. The villagers understood, perhaps uneasily, that this heat carried unseen threats lurking beneath the surface of their daily tasks. A sharp gasp broke the rhythmic soundscape as the workers, drenched and shivering from the sudden burst of heat, coughed into their hands, eyes watering from the oppressive atmosphere. Among them, Ka, a rival scribe known for his cautious nature, stepped forward with a worried expression, warning that prolonged exposure to such searing temperatures could lead to dehydration or even deadly heat stroke. His voice, although steady, carried a hint of urgency that contrasted with the overseer's calm demeanor, who waved dismissively, insisting that the linen needed to dry quickly to meet the day's quota. The overseer's face, partially shadowed, betrayed neither fear nor concern, only a desire for efficiency. Tensions simmered in the air alongside the heavy heat, a moral dilemma wrapped in the daily toil. What sacrifices to safety were acceptable for the sake of productivity? The workers looked to one another, their expressions torn between exhaustion and apprehension. As the morning stretched on, the heat persisted, the stones beneath the water radiating warmth that seemed almost alive, penetrating the skin deeply. The river's surface shimmered in the bright sunlight, flickering like a living mirror to their hardship, while the air grew even more oppressive, thick with the scent of sweat and damp linen. There was a quiet pause in the labor, each person instinctively aware of the peril that lurked in their sweaty exhaustion. Shadows of doubt flickered in their eyes. Was rushing the process worth risking their health? Yet the overseer's commands remained firm, a relentless pursuit of progress that seemed to dismiss the human toll. The moment captured a universal truth, the fine line between survival and sacrifice amid the unforgiving forces of nature and human ambition. By midday, the laborers' faces had become flushed with heat, their bodies trembling slightly as their energy waned. Faint clouds of steam seemed to rise from the boiling stones, blending with the hazy, milky air of the riverbank. Some workers wiped their foreheads with cloths, their gestures slow and fatigued, as if each breath was an effort. Ka watched helplessly, concern etched into his features, as he silently debated whether to challenge the overseer's order for haste. The blurred faces of prophetic figures or sacred icons hovered at the edge of their thoughts, a silent reminder of unseen forces that could tip the delicate balance between life and death. Every heartbeat felt louder in the thick, heavy silence, the oppressive heat pressing down on their chests like an invisible weight. It was a poignant reminder of how close humanity often teeters to its own limits amid nature's relentless demand for labor. As the sun shifted slowly westward, the heat began to wane, and a sense of cautious relief seeped into the workers' weary limbs. The linen, now soaked in river water, showed darker patches where the heat had burned through even the strongest fibers, a silent testament to the danger that had lurked just beneath the surface. The overseer finally signaled for a pause, and the laborers inching toward rest welcomed the break, their faces softening with exhaustion and relief. Ka looked across the scene with a sober understanding of the peril they had narrowly escaped, an almost forgotten truth that nature's fury and human ambition are always intertwined. Shadows of the morning's ordeal lingered in their minds, a quiet moral lesson about respecting the unseen powers that govern life. As they prepared to continue their work, they carried with them a humbling respect for the delicate balance between human effort and the merciless heat of the earth. In the ancient Egyptian courtyard, large flat stones lay arranged in a sun-drenched open space, awaiting their grim task. As the linen was carefully lifted and spread across these stones, the blazing Egyptian sun intensified its heat, transforming the stones into makeshift ovens. The air shimmered with heat waves, and the scent of scorched linen mingled with the earthy aroma of the stones. Neferet, standing nearby, felt her skin prickle and her pulse quicken, overwhelmed by the relentless blaze. The crowd gathered silently, unaware of the deadly combination of steam, intense heat, and river toxins lurking unseen beneath the fabric. This harsh ritual, meant to purify, held the silent potential to become a lethal trial by fire. As the sun climbed higher, the stones radiated oppressive warmth, searing through the linen and into the air around them. The fabric, soaked in river water and imbued with toxins, released tendrils of steam that curled upward, mingling with the hot breeze. Neferet's fingertips tingled with heat, her breath grew shallow as sweat trickled down her forehead. The silence among the spectators was thick, save for the distant rustling of linen and the faint crackle of drying fibers. Unseen hazards lingered beneath the fabric, toxins absorbed from the river long ago, now reactivated by the intense heat. Every moment felt like teetering on the edge of danger, an ancient ritual cloaked in the brutal beauty of the sun's glare. As the process continued, the heat intensified, roasting the linen and amplifying the oppressive atmosphere. The sound of the crowd blurred with Neferet's pounding heartbeat, her senses overwhelmed by both the searing temperature and her fear. Her skin grew red and tight, the intense heat penetrating deep into her bones, while the steam rising from the fabric hissed like a serpent ready to strike. The toxins within the linen, long absorbed into the fibers, threatened to drift into the air, inhaled unknowingly by those nearby. Shadows flickered across the faces of the crowd, though their expressions remained vacant and unseeing, lost in ritual and tradition. This moment of fragile endurance revealed the fine line between cleansing and catastrophe under the unyielding sun. Suddenly, a flicker of concern passed through Neferet's mind as she watched the heat atop the stones. The relentless blaze had transformed the linen into a mummified relic of cloth, brittle and glowing at the edges. The air grew thicker, heavier, with the scent of scorched fabric mixed with something darker, potent river toxins disturbed and released into the atmosphere. Her body felt as though it was wilting under the sun's might, and the unseen chemical threats, her heartbeat pounding loudly in her ears. A sense of foreboding lingered. This ritual, though ancient, carried silent risks that could turn deadly without warning. The silent understanding among the spectators was that the sun's furnace could easily become a merciless judge of their endurance. Yet hope and fear coexist in this moment of human endurance. As the ritual reached its climax, the last of the linen was stretched thin and blistered under the merciless sun. The crowd's eyes remained fixed, unaware of the invisible danger that still lurked within the fabric, toxins released into the air, caustic and potentially lethal. Neferet, exhausted and trembling, wondered whether the heat had truly purified, or if it had silently claimed lives without recognition. The scene was a stark reminder of humanity's fragile dance with nature's brutal elements, a spectacle of survival under an unforgiving sky. When the stones finally cooled and the linen was removed, it was with lingering doubts about the true cost. The sun, a silent judge, had cast its fiery verdict, leaving an echo of quiet mortality behind. In the bustling workshop, where Egyptian linen was meticulously washed, laborers worked intently under the relentless sun. The heat from fires used to warm water mingled with the natural scorch of the day, creating an environment filled with steamy humidity and crackling energy. Amidst the rhythmic splashing and scrubbing, workers felt the oppressive temperature seeping into their bones, yet they pressed on, unaware of the danger lurking beneath. At the center of the workspace stood the ancient sunstone, a valuable artifact believed to harness solar energy for processing the linen. Its surface shimmered slightly as the day wore on, a silent sentinel over the busy scene. No one imagined that beneath this seemingly inert stone, a fatal rupture was quietly brewing. As the afternoon deepened, the heat intensified, and a sudden, deafening crack shattered the air. The sunstone beneath the linen split open with a jagged fracture, unleashing a cloud of superheated steam that whipped through the workshop like a scalding storm. Workers cried out, their faces contorting with fear and pain as the searing vapor washed over them, blurring their vision and stinging their skin. The air was filled with the hiss of escaping heat and the smell of burnt linen, a moment frozen in time where disaster struck unexpectedly. Neferet, a priestess who had been supervising, collapsed instinctively, her limbs trembling and her sight dimming. The scene was a chaotic mixture of panic and helplessness as the crowd scrambled to extinguish the sudden blaze. Amid the chaos, the people's eyes caught sight of an ancient papyrus inscribed with warnings they had long ignored. The fragile scroll, half buried under the debris, seemed to glow faintly in the flickering firelight. The inscription warned of the deadly power contained within heat and the potential devastation should it remain unchecked. As flames raced upward and smoke billowed around them, the priestess's mind wandered to the centuries-old caution, recognizing too late the truth behind the words. Her vision blurred, and the realization settled heavy. They had unwittingly played with that which could kill when manipulated without understanding its true fury. The lessons of history echoed with a silent accusation, whispering the dangers of hubris and neglect. Struggling to breathe in the thickening smoke, the workers and onlookers fought to control the spreading fire, their hands trembling as they doused the flames with water and pushed past the fears to save what they could. The warmth from the burning linen mingled with the residual intense heat from the cracked sunstone, creating an oppressive, suffocating atmosphere. In these frantic moments, the human toll was palpable. Sweat streamed down faces streaked with soot, and trembling limbs betrayed the exhaustion and dread. Neferet, still on the ground, was attended to by others, her body exhausted, and her mind haunted by the realization of forgotten warnings. The scene was a stark reminder. Nature's power, once unleashed, demands respect and humility above all else. As dawn approached, the smoldering remains were quiet, yet the lesson was painfully clear. The sunstone's rupture had revealed the lethal potential of heat when unregulated and misunderstood. Neferet, slowly recovering her senses, gazed at the distant horizon, her expression shadowed by the weight of past mistakes. The tragedy imbued new caution into all who witnessed it, shaping the consciousness of future generations. The functionality and danger of ancient technologies had to be re-examined, not with fear, but with reverence and careful study. This quiet catastrophe served as a solemn reminder that progress must always be tempered by humility, especially before the unseen forces of nature that could end lives in an instant. On a blazingly hot Egyptian morning, laborers gathered along the riverbank to wash linen in the sun-drenched waters. The air shimmered with heat, pressing down on their shoulders as they scrubbed the coarse cloth, seeking to purify it before drying. The relentless sun beat upon their backs, making water feel like steaming broth rather than cool relief, while the rhythmic splashes echoed softly in the oppressive silence. Many thought the intense heat was a necessary cleansing force, unaware of the danger lurking beneath its harsh brilliance. As they worked, the brutal temperature seemed almost to consume the very moisture from their skins, a reminder of nature's indifferent power. By midday, the workers' voices grew faint, their movements sluggish as fatigue set in. Some faltered, their skin flushed and trembling from the heat. Others wiped sweat from their brows with soiled cloths. The linen, now visibly damp, was hurriedly laid out on racks to dry in the open air. The sun's rays, cruel and unyielding, roasted the fabric and the workers alike, with the air thick and suffocating. A few individuals fainted briefly, their faces ghostly in the blinding sunlight, as the oppressive environment whispered warnings of peril. Even those who survived understood, in the deeper corners of their minds, that heat could be both purifier and destroyer. As the afternoon waned, the priestess, her face veiled in shadow, summoned the gathered community to a meeting. Her voice was calm but firm, echoing through the gathered crowd as she issued new rites rooted in caution. Linen should no longer be washed in the glaring sun, but in shaded pools where the water remained cool and gentle. Drying was to be done under the cover of night's cool breezes, a shift dictated by both tradition and newfound respect for nature's fury. The priestess's unseen gaze carried a silent warning. The same elements that cleanse can also claim lives if disrespected. Her words, blurred at the edges, seemed a shrouded reminder that survival required humility and observation. In the days that followed, the villagers adapted their routines, cultivating shaded pools and seeking refuge in the coolness after the hottest hours. Those who had fainted or suffered minor burns nursed their wounds with simple herbs, a quiet testament to the day's lessons. Neferet, who had been close to collapse, slowly regained her strength, carrying the memory of that scorching day as a somber story told around fires. It was a tale etched into their collective consciousness, one of heat's dual face, a cleansing power that could turn deadly. Over time, the community grew more mindful of the delicate balance between nature's mercy and menace. Their new rites reflected a cautious respect, an acknowledgement that even the most seemingly mundane acts could turn fatal under the wrong conditions. Looking back, the ordeal served as a profound lesson etched into their history, never to underestimate the brutal power of the sun and the water combined. The silent, distant faces of the priestess in their memories symbolized unseen wisdom, guiding through shadows and light alike. In their simple, everyday actions, a new prudence was born, washing linen in shaded pools, and drying in cool breezes became a symbol of survival. Through suffering and adaptation, they learned that human effort alone could not tame nature's relentless temperament. Instead, respect and humility became their enduring tools, a reminder that what appears benign can often be deadly if misunderstood or ignored, especially in the blazing heart of Egypt's sun. At dawn in the historic city of Suzhou, the air is thick with a gentle mist rolling over the calm surface of the river. Lin Mei, a seasoned washerwoman with calloused hands and a faint smile, arranges her bamboo frame beside her eager apprentice Jun, whose youthful face reflects both curiosity and determination. The riverside hums softly with morning sounds, water lapping against the bamboo, distant birds, and the faint clatter of baskets. The tradition of river stage laundry has woven itself into daily life here. Families depend on this practice to keep their homes and garments clean amid the bustling town. Yet, beneath this routine tranquility lies a constant awareness of unseen dangers, swift currents that can drag a careless soul downstream, and lurking predators hidden beneath the water's surface. As Lin Mei dips her hands into the cold, flowing water, she expertly wrings out a worn piece of silk, the fabric feeling smooth, yet damp, against her fingertips. Jun watches intently, mimicking her movements, all the while aware of the shimmering currents swirling beneath the bamboo platform. The river's surface is deceptively still. Moments later, a sudden tug, almost imperceptible, reminds them of the treacherous power beneath. Their woven baskets hold their hopes and the risks, gently tethered to the water's mercy. The quiet murmur of the flow is broken by a faint splash, a reminder that unseen dangers, perhaps a swift swirl or a lurking fish, are always present. In this fragile balance, Each day demands respect for the river's deadly potential. The sun rises higher, casting warmer orange hues over the water and illuminating the delicate dust motes floating softly in the air. Lynn May adjusts her stance, mindful of the current's silent threat, while Jun begins to scrub a cloth with rhythmic patience. The townspeople nearby go about their chores, their faces mostly blurred, shadows of human effort wrapped in the simple routines of life. The rhythmic sound of clothing beating against the wood complements the gentle lapping of the river. Still, every stroke and splash echoes the constant dance with danger, an unpredictable current here, a hidden creature there, reminding them of nature's indifference. The practice of river laundry is not just a livelihood, but a delicate act of coexistence with the water's silent ferocity. As the morning progresses, clouds drift across the sky, casting fleeting shadows over the riverbank. Lynn May's hands continue their work, steady despite the subtle undercurrent that tries to loosen her grip. Jun's youthful face, partly obscured by a faint sheen of sweat, betrays a mix of respect and nervousness. Occasionally, a distant shout or the splash of water punctuates the quiet monotony, anchoring them to the reality that danger is never far away. The water's cool touch contrasts with the warmth growing on their skin, a reminder that the river offers both life and peril in equal measure. Their routine is a quiet testament to resilience and the human instinct to respect the natural world's hidden threats. As midday approaches, the river glimmers under the bright sun, and Lynn May carefully gathers her completed laundry. She casts a cautious glance downstream, aware of how quickly the water's calm serenity can turn into chaos. Jun, now more confident, nods silently, understanding the importance of vigilance. Their simple act of washing clothes embodies a larger human story of survival, skill, and the constant humbleness before nature's might. The river still whispers its unpredictable song, reminding all who work along its banks of the deadly risks hidden beneath its tranquil exterior. In this daily dance with danger, their perseverance echoes centuries of tradition, etched into the very fabric of life along the quiet, unyielding river. In the quiet hours of dawn along the ancient river, Lynn May and Jun carefully scrubbed their garments, the cool water of the current flowing swiftly past their makeshift laundry spot. Their routine was a fragile balance of patience and toil, the earthy scent of soap mingling with the dampness of fabric and river mist. As they worked under the soft glow of early light, the peaceful rhythm was suddenly shattered by a deep, thunderous roar from upstream. A surge of water, dark and foaming, roared past the dams upstream, threatening to engulf everything in its path. Panic flickered in their eyes as they hurried to secure their clothes, grasping at bundles and baskets that threatened to be swept away by the relentless flood. The river's sudden upheaval brought a gust of icy spray, and the deafening sound of rushing water that seemed to echo into the distant mountains. The trembling ground beneath their feet, coupled with the roaring torrent, made every second feel tense and precarious. A seasoned fisherman nearby, his face shaded by the brim of his worn straw hat, called out warnings about the dangerous waters, about serpents lurking beneath the waves, and waterspouts that could swallow a man whole. His voice was calm but urgent, revealing years of experience, as he recounted stories of lives lost to the river's fury. The fisherman's words lingered in the air, casting a shadow of dread and respect over the river's unpredictable temperament. As the surge receded momentarily, a haunting silence fell, interrupted only by the distant murmur of the current settling into churned-up debris and scattered clothing. The heat of fear climbed their spines as they watched the water retreat, revealing the chaos left behind: uprooted branches, broken pottery, and bodies carried downstream. Lin May's hands trembled as she looked at the swirling, muddy water that still seethed with hidden dangers. Jun's face was pale but determined, knowing the river's violence was an ever-present threat for those living along its banks. The danger was not only in the water's force, but in unseen predators and destructive waterspouts that could strike without warning, claiming more lives in moments of vulnerability. In the aftermath, villagers gathered along the riverbank, their faces blurred by shadow, yet their fear palpable in quiet whispers. Many had lost loved ones to the river's deadly storms. Their stories were woven into the landscape of battered boats and scarred soil. The community's resilience was tested anew, each story a reminder of nature's indifferent yet lethal power. Somewhere behind these human struggles, faint outlines of sages and guardians, their faces obscured, their wisdom only hinted at, watched from the shadows, silent witnesses to the ongoing dance with danger. Despite their hardships, the villagers' spirits persisted, mindful of the river's merciless temperament and their own fragile hope for safety. As the day brightened, the villagers carefully cleaned their gear, respecting both the river's gifts and its threats. Lin May and Jun, exhausted but alive, exchanged weary looks, their shared experience binding them to a community that knew all too well the deadly risks of their daily chores. Their faces remained serene, yet burdened, attentive to the unpredictable nature of the waters that sustained yet threatened them. Their clothing was simple, worn, but functional, marked by their labor and resilience. Beneath the bright sky, life continued slowly. a delicate balance of human endurance against the relentless power of the river that had claimed so many lives, whispering eternal lessons in its deep, silent voice. As the heavy rains persisted over ancient China, the mighty river swelled ominously, its dark, murky waters spilling beyond the familiar banks. Along its shores, washerwomen defending their livelihoods pushed out into the tumult, their wooden boats bobbing perilously amidst floating debris, twisted branches, discarded pots, and tangled cloth. The air was thick with the cold dampness of mist settling on their skin, and the roar of rushing water echoed in their ears, a relentless reminder of the relentless fury of nature. Amidst this chaos, Jun and a fellow washerwoman tightened their grips on their poles, eyes fixed on the turbulent currents ahead. Every splash and swirl hinted at an unpredictable danger lurking beneath the surface, challenging their courage and resolve. In those moments, the quiet question hovered. Should they abandon their work, or risk everything to salvage their livelihood amidst the storm's wrath? Suddenly, the ground beneath Jun's feet shifted as a heavy wave surged unexpectedly, knocking her off balance and plunging her into the icy river. The cold water seized her limbs, the shock numbing her senses, as she struggled to surface against the relentless pull of the current. Her call of alarm was muffled by the rushing water, but her fellow washerwoman lunged to grab her arm, pulling her back from the brink of drowning. Around them, debris spun in frantic eddies, swirling around the struggling figures like deadly obstacles. The sounds of splashing, shouting, and the cracking of branches filled the air as they fought the river's deadly embrace. In that moment, a fierce choice arose: to stay and face the peril, or to abandon the priceless remains of their daily toil and retreat to safety, whatever that might be. As dawn threatened to break through the storm-clouded sky, the exhausted women clung to their fragile boats, their faces filled with a mixture of fear, determination, and despair. The river continued to rage, its surface a chaotic mosaic of foam and fallen leaves, embodying nature's unyielding power. Jun's partner gently wiped a streak of mud and tears from her brow, whispering words of quiet encouragement, though her own eyes betrayed her worry. Their hands, rough from years of washing, trembled as they navigated the treacherous waters, each movement precise, cautious, and heavy with loss. They had fought not only the water, but also the silent threat of losing everything they had built with sweat and hope. This relentless struggle highlighted the vulnerable resilience of those who depended on the river's mercy and their own skill to survive each day's chaos. Later, amidst the aftermath of the flood, the women sat on the riverbank, their clothes soaked and their faces streaked with grime and tears. The landscape was scarred, twisted trees, uprooted roots, and debris lining the shore like a grim tapestry of destruction. Despite the devastation, a quiet sense of camaraderie persisted, born from shared hardship and unspoken understanding. They reflected on the peril they faced every day, acknowledging the river's beauty and danger in equal measure. With battered hands and tired eyes, they stitched together their plans, some contemplating abandoning the river altogether, others vowing to adapt and return. Their resilience, now hardened by survival, revealed a human spirit that refused to surrender in the face of nature's most deadly fury. Their story was one of enduring hope amid relentless threat, a testament to human perseverance. As the sun finally pierced through the lingering clouds, casting a muted golden light over the disturbed landscape, the washerwomen prepared to resume their daily routines, forever changed by the flood's fury. They moved slowly, mindful of the river's unpredictable temperament, yet driven by the necessity of their work. Their simple clothing, damp and weathered, bore witness to their hardship and resilience, an enduring symbol of their unwavering spirit. With each cautious step back onto their boats and along the muddy riverbanks, they carried the weight of past peril and unspoken resolve. This stark scene captured not just the danger of river stage laundry in ancient China, but also the profound human capacity to endure, adapt, and carry on despite the relentless threats posed by both nature and necessity. Along the winding waterway of ancient China, the rapids known as the Dragon's Teeth commanded both awe and danger. Local villagers, clad in simple silk and linen robes, navigated the swift currents with practiced caution, aware of the treacherous submerged rocks and unpredictable waves. On this day, Lin Mei, a determined young woman, prepared for her routine laundry crossing, her heartbeat steady despite the roar of the rushing water. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and wet fabric as she tied her laundry into bundles, feeling the cool breeze brush her face. The very essence of daily life, woven into the rhythm of river work, suddenly took a deadly turn as tension mounted beneath calm appearances. As Lin Mei and her companions pushed their small boats toward the rocky pass, a sudden cracking noise shattered the usual tranquility. Without warning, a section of the ancient wooden bridge supporting their crossing gave way, splintering and plunging into the turbulent waters below. The impact sent a thunderous splash, sending debris and splinters swirling into the air as the river churned aggressively. Panic flickered in the eyes of the villagers as they watched helplessly, knowing that many would be swept into the whirlpool now forming where the bridge had collapsed. The roar of the water grew deafening, and the muddy current pulled at everything nearby with relentless force. Moments that felt like eternity hung heavy with fear and uncertainty. Stranded in the midst of chaos, Lin May's mind raced rapidly. Her hands, weathered from years of manual work, instinctively grasped an ancient rope knot technique passed down by her ancestors. With trembling fingers but clear resolve, she secured a makeshift rescue line from the remaining debris. Her eyes, shadowed by a hat but sharp as a hawk's, surveyed the swirling whirlpool, calculating the best way to save her fellow villagers. As Jun, caught in the violent current, struggled against the water's grasp, Lin May threw her improvised rope with precise aim. The rough fiber touched Jun's hand, offering a fragile hope amid the roaring chaos, while her own heart pounded in her chest. The strength of her resolve became a lifeline amid the deadly dance of river and ruin. With the river pulling at her with unyielding force, Lin May held tight to the rope, anchoring herself against the turbulent water's pull. Her voice, calm yet urgent, shouted instructions to the perilous crowd as chaos unfolded around her. Jun grasped the line with trembling fingers, his face a mask of exhaustion and relief, while others clung to floating wreckage or were pulled under the froth. The swirling water was icy and deafening, pressing cold fear into everyone's bones. Amidst this deadly moment, Lin May's quick thinking and steady courage became the fragile thread linking life and death. The villagers watched in silence, awe and gratitude swirling within their hearts as she fought against the relentless power of the rapids to save those she loved. At last, with a combination of daring movements and ancient knot techniques, Lin May managed to pull Jun and a few others to the calmer edges of the whirlpool. The water's roar gradually softened as they reached the riverbank, muddy and exhausted, but alive. The villagers, breathless and battered, gathered around her, their expressions a mix of relief and reverence. The shadowed, unseen faces of prophets and sacred guides seemed distant, but somehow present in the storm's aftermath, reminding everyone of resilience amid deadly risks. As the sun peeked through the gray sky, the river calmed, returning to its relentless but predictable flow. The narrow escape forever etched in their memories. The villagers understood that everyday life carried dangers that tested their human strength, patience, and wisdom. In the bustling towns along ancient China's riverside, laundry was a communal task that carried hidden dangers beneath its routine facade. People gathered at riverbanks, their rough cloths soaking in the water as voices echoed over gentle waves, and the soft rustling of fabric filled the air. The constant proximity to the flowing, unpredictable river made this daily chore perilous. Silent currents and sudden surges could pull the unwary Beneath the surface, without warning, faces of villagers, weathered and focused, reflected a mix of determination and reverence for the river's power. Yet many remained unaware of the lurking risk beneath their busy routines. It was a familiar scene, yet beneath the surface lay a tension born of respect and fear for nature's unyielding force. One fateful day, a near tragedy struck when a young woman's laundry slipped from her hands and was caught in a swift, unseen current, pulling her toward unseen depths. A hushed panic spread among the bystanders as the woman's face, blurred and shadowed, struggled against the water's grip. Her frantic movement, frantic but futile. The entire community watched in silence, hearts pounding, as she was almost swallowed by the river's relentless flow. The incident cast a stark light on the peril embedded in their daily routines, awakening a collective awareness that the river's beauty was balanced precariously with its deadly unpredictability. It became clear that safety could no longer be left to chance or hope alone. Change was desperately needed. Moved by the harrowing episode, the town council convened to seek a solution that would safeguard their people without abandoning their traditions. After careful deliberation, they commissioned the construction of a sturdy stone laundry platform, situated a safe distance from the river's edge, where turbulent currents were less likely to threaten life and limb. Local artisans painstakingly carved and laid stones, shaping a solid, dependable space for washing that would stand against the elements. As the new platform took shape, it became a symbol of communal resilience and learned respect, a tangible turning point in their ongoing relationship with nature. This deliberate act reflected a collective commitment to balance progress with prudence, honoring the lessons learned from their near tragedy. Lin Mei and Jun, two local villagers who had witnessed the incident firsthand, celebrated the completion of the safer laundry platform with quiet relief. Their smiles flickered softly in the warm sunlight as they looked over the newly built structure, its rough stone surface contrasting with the flowing water they now avoided. They shared stories of their past struggles, feeling both gratitude and humility for the sharper understanding that safety demanded respect for nature's unpredictable might. As they helped others move their laundry to the new site, a renewed sense of caution and reverence filled their conversations, an unspoken acknowledgement of the delicate balance between human activity and the natural world's power. Their modest celebration embodied a wider hope for a safer dawn. Reflecting on their experience, the villagers cultivated a deeper respect for the river's strength, recognizing that even daily chores carried inherent risks that demanded vigilance. The story spread beyond their small town, whispering lessons of humility and the importance of respecting nature's boundaries. With each passing season, the community's practices evolved, more careful, more aware, each person bearing the memory of the near tragedy as a reminder. The blurred faces of prophets or wise figures who might have warned in unseen shadows now seemed like distant echoes, their silent lessons embedded in the sands of time. From tragedy emerged a sense of collective wisdom, a testament to humanity's ongoing dialogue with the natural world, striving for safety without forsaking tradition.